Hi, I'm Austin Wintory, and 2 years ago I did a contest on this channel, and I didn't mean for so much time to go between it and the follow-up and announcing the new one, but here we are. So as a refresher, here is a little glimpse of the prompt from Aliens Fireteam Elite that led to that contest. So here's the challenge. Number one, make this interesting. That's all there is to it. Take that rhythm and just sustain our interest as listeners. I don't care what genre of music, I don't care what kinds of instruments or electronics or voices or any of that kind of thing. Fast, slow, doesn't matter. Just take this rhythm, make it interesting. Let me just say that I went through every single entry I got, and there were hundreds of them. That's maybe part of why it took 2 years, is I insisted on listening to every single entry. And for all of you who submitted, first off, just bravo. It's probably a bit of a cliche to highlight this point, but it's important. Putting your work out there, especially if you're just starting out and you're kind of still learning your tools and your craft, takes a certain amount of courage and spine and resilience, especially because I only give a few weeks for these contests turnaround. And I am just continuously blown away by the quality of what I see. So for those who took the time, regardless of who I picked, truly, thank you and bravo. I hope you want to maybe try it again. Second, I really struggled to pick the winners, and I ended up picking a bunch of them because I couldn't just narrow it down to one or two or even three. But on top of that, there were also a lot that I really, really loved and maybe just didn't quite see a path to how I would collaborate with this person on any of the projects that are currently on my horizon. And so I chose them as kind of runners-up and hope that we stay in each other's lives and in orbits in the hope of doing something at some point down the road.
I came here to save the Mars. It's not a dream, it's not a dream, it's not a dream.
First off, I picked 3 winners very shortly after the contest went live 2 years ago because I immediately saw an opportunity to collaborate them with a game that I was working on at the time that has since come out called Strayed Lights, based on a French developer called Embers. The 3 winners I chose for that were Jackson Fromberger, Samatis, and Dario Satriani. You can hear all 3 of their work in the finished product of Strayed Lights and see their name in the credits. So here's a few quick words from each of them showcasing what they did.
Ciao, Samates/Alessandra here. Thank you once again for having me.
Hey. 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 Oi, guru, asoy, guru. Oi, guru, asoy, guru.
Hi, I'm Jackson, and this is how I made some of the ambient sounds in Strayed Lights. So I'm a violinist, and I wanted to have a go at using my violin to make all of the ambient sounds. Some of the things I used were like pitch shifters and different kinds of delays and reverbs. Granular synthesis is fun. This is one of the patches that I kind of came up with, which is used lots of pitch shifting. So after listening to the tracks from Austin, I roughly mapped out the melody and the harmony that I could hear and sort of set out what notes I'd like to touch upon just as a response to them. Ended up with a bunch of different cues that eventually made their way into the game.
Hello everyone, my name is Dario and I am a trumpet player from Italy. I recorded a trumpet improvisation using a scale from the Arabic modal sound system called Makam Bayati. The makam actually was not used in a traditional or conventional way, but was used as a tool to develop a melodic line that blends the Arabic sound with my own personal background and my own personal musical experiences.
Okay, so here are the other winners that are going to be collaborating with me on upcoming projects. First off is Sarah Basquiano. This one jumped out pretty early for me, and it's partly because I just loved the irreverence of it. When the prompt was make it interesting, a handful of you played around with sampling my literal voice or recording your own take and that sort of thing, and I was delighted to see that as a somewhat of a recurring motif. This one in particular, I just found fresh and hilarious, and I reached out.
Interesting, make it in. Interesting, interesting. 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 Interesting.
Hey everyone! So I started my piece off with some sampled sounds that I had recorded from around my apartment, and I used the Klangfarben melody technique to pass the 9-note motif around between 9 different sounds. I also played around with the fact that beat 1 and beat 4 of the rhythm are the exact same, so I could have some voices playing their beat 4 while another voice plays their beat 1 layered on top of that, or play with changing time signatures or polymeters. Got some hemiolas and all that good stuff. Harmonically, I've got some pedal points, movement between a few different modes, and some colorful moments. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it, so thanks again to Austin for putting this on.
Next was Nick Montepoli. This was a quintessential make a lot out of a little.
Hi, my name's Nick. I'm a violinist and composer based in Austin, Texas. I came up with the idea to use only rhythmic sounds, unpitched sounds using the violin, since Austin gave us this prompt that was just a little rhythmic figure. So here's a couple of the sounds that I used. I used coleño, which you might be familiar with. I also used various knocks, like knocking on the instrument like that, tapping on the bridge with the bow. You can get this kind of breathy, crazy sound by bowing horizontally to the strings. So like this. This is my personal favorite, is actually bowing on the tailpiece itself. So those are the sounds that became my submission, and thanks so much, Austin, for hosting the contest, and can't wait to see what we get up to.
Next is Samantha Ballard, and what I loved about this was the totally unintuitive take on what to do with this prompt.
I started with this idea of wanting to layer multiple harp parts using the rhythm that was given. I wanted to make sure that I used different registers on the harp for each track, each layer. What I did for the first one was just kind of find this little arpeggio with a voicing that I liked. The second layer was these little descending broken chords just way up high on the harp. And then the third layer was the original rhythm, but just playing octaves. And then on top of that, just a vocal. And it's a style that I kind of hear sometimes in like Korean and like Chinese dramas that really inspired me at the time. So yeah, that's how I made it.
Next is James Cullen. Sometimes I just hear textures and layering that speaks to me.
Hi there, my name is James Cullen. I'm a composer from Auckland, New Zealand. I have a basic idea of taking the YouTube video itself and manipulating it. And I found this part that I like. I've gotten somewhere weird. I reversed the sample, pitched it up, put some reverb on it, Valhalla's space modulator and supermassive because it's just so much fun. And then also put a bit of auto pan. Somewhere in there is something that I'm gonna use. Yeah, this has been really, really fun.
Next was Nick Harrison Palmer, and I think what I would summarize about this one is that I never really knew where it was going to go next, and it kind of continuously kept me on my toes in interesting ways, and I love that.
For the instrumentation, I used quite a lot of synth layering to get this quite thick, rich sound. I used a lot of processed drum loops, percussive modular sounds, things like that, which kind of solidified the rhythmic aspects of it. My favourite part is probably right at the end when I use this female choir, which is like very heavily affected, kind of creeps in with this washy reverb, heavy saturation. Yeah, has quite a ghostly effect.
Next was Ian Kaiser, and much like the previous one, Nick, this was one that as I heard it, I never quite knew where it was going to go, and it felt inventive and was taking weird, unexpected left turns, and I have a project where that seemed like a perfect bit of secret sauce to try and cook up something together.
For this challenge, I took an inspiration from a game unreleased at the time called Solar Ash, which reminded me a bit of The Pathless, but in space. In my mind, the game called for floating synths, spiraling arpeggios, and an otherworldly background of percussion and effects to fit the clouded planet's atmosphere. Being a pianist, I also had to throw in some piano, so I put together a progression based on minor 6 chords, mixed it all together, and voila! Looking back on it, this project was kind of a melting pot of ideas, so it was fun to experiment and try different techniques like helicopter percussion, air blasts, and battle cry effects to help characterize this flying alien.
And next, this one was admittedly quite an overachiever, but I found it deeply impressive. This was Christian Alfonso, who basically built a custom piece of interactive middleware, and in addition to addressing the prompt, made essentially playable game music out of it. So, bravo.
Hi, I'm Chris. For this contest, I recorded an arrangement for a violin ensemble and then created a simple web-based interactive music player. For the arrangement, I tried to get some varied and creepy sounds out of the instrument to stay in the alien sound world. The player is a web app written in JavaScript, which manages the sequence and mixing of music segments, so you can fade between intensity layers or trigger a dramatic cue to start on the next downbeat.
Last is Alex Hoffmeyer, which I loved for the fact that it was also, as with the earlier one of Samantha's, a very unexpected place to go with this prompt. And it just worked. And coincidentally, the bass playing in particular had a perfect applicability on something coming up. And I just thought, this is slam dunk.
I'm Alex, and for Austin's competition I made 2 tracks. For my first track I tried to challenge myself by only using the electric bass. I started out by using Austin's rhythm to create a bass line, which I doubled with an octave. Then I added some percussion elements, some triplets using slapping and popping and left-hand muting. And then I added a snare drum by striking the strings with the pick sideways. For the melody, I decided to start with straight 8th notes to contrast the triplet feel of the rest of the groove. I added a tiny bit of tremolo guitar on the melody, but other than that, it's all bass.
So there you go. Links are down below to all of their actual entries. My immense gratitude to all of you for putting in this time and this work and your artistry and creativity. It as much time as was required to just get through it all and listen to all of this. It is such a privilege and such a pleasure to hear such range of talent, such eclectic and diverse musical instincts. And so I hope you feel inspired to do it again, because I'd like to do another one of these. So, much like on the previous, I took a rhythm from a section of Aliens Fireteam Elite and said, take this rhythm and interpret it however you will, but make it interesting. I'm going to kind of twist that, but now instead of rhythm, it's about melody. So if you've come across Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, which I had the great privilege of working on, the opening song that I wrote is called Adrift. And so what I thought this time I would do is take that song and, with no regard to rhythm or the implied harmonies, or certainly the lyrics, take this sequence of pitches and use them somehow to, once again, make something that is hopefully interesting. As with before, There is no guideline here on instrumentation or genre. The length of the piece can be whatever you want, although I certainly don't expect anybody to deliver anything that is, an hour long. But I want to leave the parameters essentially entirely up to you. How you use this sequence of notes is part of the exercise here. So have fun with it and enjoy it. Okay, some housekeeping. First off, the deadline is going to be December 8th. That is 3 weeks from the moment this video was published. Normally I like to do it in 2 weeks, but because the American holiday of Thanksgiving lands in there and a lot of people take time off, I'm making it 3 weeks. So for those of you who don't celebrate Thanksgiving or don't live in the United States and that sort of thing, then hooray, you get an extra week for no reason. That's item number 1. Item number 2, a reminder that this is subjectively a contest of something I am looking for. There's no way to second guess what that is or anticipate it. So just a reminder, be yourself. Really put yourself out there. Part of the reason why I like to do this the way it is that hopefully other people might come along and could potentially find your work here, regardless of if I pick it or not. Next, to officially enter, all you have to do is just put it as a YouTube comment on this video, just like we did last time. So ideally that's a YouTube video. However, if you want to leave a link to Reelcrafter or SoundCloud or some other service like that, that's fine. But it must be on this channel. So if you want to tag me on Twitter or on Instagram or anything like that, go for it. But until you get an acknowledgement that we have ingested it into our system based on seeing it in the comments below here, it is not submitted. So don't rely on Twitter or things like that. This lets it be consolidated. Plus, I really like that everybody gets to hear each other's entries. One of the most heartwarming things about when I was going through the entries this last time was seeing the comments, and there were a handful of people that would recur and listen, and they were clearly listening to everybody's. And I think that's awesome. There's something very, communal and shared destiny about that. So I love that a lot. For the absence of doubt, winning this is paid work. I understand that submitting it constitutes spec work on everybody here, but when I reach out and say, hey, I'd love to bring you in on a project, let there be no question that these are paid and credited positions. So just want to make sure that that's very clear. Make your contact information easy to find. On a handful of these, including some of the winners, I really had to dig. I had to go to their YouTube channel or their SoundCloud page, see their name, Google them, look through various names that come up, seeing that it's, the right person's name. And after a certain point, it starts to become a bit of unnecessary work. So just as a bit of professional advice from me to everybody else, when you're doing anything creative, make your email address easy to find. If you want to do a contact form or something like that, so be it. But I recommend putting an email address right there. That's easy to find. All right, I think that's everything. Thank you all again so much. There's really no way for me to overstate how inspiring your collective creativity is in this, and the kind of community that emerges from everybody interacting. I just love it. So let's keep it going again. Thank you for checking this out and for letting me use Stray Gods as the new springboard. And so off we go into future projects together. Thanks so much.